Hello, dwellers of the internet. It's PlatSkull once again. I thought it would be a fun and cool idea to progressively take shots and throw out ideas that happen to come to mind as I take them. One idea or rambling section per shot, and it's just going to be whatever comes to mind. So it's going to be a good time if you care to listen. Here we go. Okay, shot number one. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the significance of the environment of Anor Londo and how beautiful it looks since we're looking at it and we're here. And I was noticing, upon taking the first shot, some of the significance in the lighting and the shading and the difference between the two and just how the reflectivity of all the objects make it look cool. I thought that was pretty awesome. I've talked about the significance of the visual appeal and how the environment is able to stand out in this game before on this channel through the snow environment, but I figured it was worth mentioning since Anor Londo and Irithyll in general has sort of the same visual appeal to it, and I think is one of the most beautiful places in Dark Souls 3. Super cool looking, stone everywhere, very kingdom-like. It looks as if it's gone through some wear and tear, fallen victim to weathering because of the current age that we're in at the moment. But regardless of that, it maintaining its sort of used appearance and slightly dulled, it doesn't take away from the beauty with which the area was designed, both in a meta sense and not. A beauty in the sense that the designers created it to be beautiful and created it to look awesome to the player and make you feel like you were running around in a significantly ancient kingdom which has power to it, and the importance of royalty, which is awesome. And in the sense that it's gratified in-game. It is the worship place of Pontiff Sulyvahn. It's where the kingdom of Irithyll had its most powerful figures at the spearhead of their armies, where all of their worshippers would come to pay respect. Their kingdoms and castles and the land surrounding them historically were always created to show off the flair of the power and the ability and the importance of the kingdom, and the king himself or whoever was in control or had power at the time. They always had that significance to showcase that and to broadcast that sort of to the public with the rarity of the building materials used to showcase a sense of wealth and power. That's all it really was they had sense enough to design it in a way that makes it legitimately significant as a realistically built kingdom would be, which is the surrounding lands get better and better as you closer approach the epicenter, which is where ultimately the king would reside, with his kingdom surrounding him, and his guards and most closest subjects would be progressively getting more and more higher ranked from the outside to the inside. Just an awesome design, and I was thinking about that while looking here. Okay, shot number two. Something I was thinking about was the setup of the game mechanics and the environment of a Lollipop Chainsaw. Kind of an old game now, I suppose. I mean, it's from this century, still fairly new, I guess. It's an awesome game, fun game. Tara Strong is the voice actress for the main girl, which is Juliet Starling. Full of awesome combos, and it's just a great time. Something I wanted to mention specifically about it was the way that it's designed aesthetically, which is that it's played for laughs. The storyline is comedic. It's meant to be a game you play for, not for the sincerity or seriousness of the story, but for how it interprets itself, being not a meta narrative, but a comedy, just something that doesn't take itself too seriously. Something that has bosses that are based on stereotypes. Like there's a disco guy, a disco king, if you will, who is in control of a bunch of different themed zombies. Everybody has different themed zombies based on the category of boss you're fighting or the stereotype of boss you're fighting, and everything in the game coincides with that same boss's theme. When you're heading up to face the Disco King, for example, all of his enemies that are sloomed throughout his levels are disco themed, as well as the environments. Everything that you encounter is leading you up to these boss battles with the continuation and the connection of a theme, one theme per boss, and per couple levels, however many levels it takes to get to a boss. I honestly don't think it's that many. I think it's two. It's one or two tops, if I'm not mistaken, that it takes to get to each boss. Maybe it was longer. I'm not sure. I remember beating the game rather quickly, so it couldn't have been too much of an extensive period of wading through levels, but as soon as you would get the sense that the theme was getting repetitive or boring, it would switch it up on you and go to the next boss's theme. This keeps you interested. It keeps you not guessing, because it's not a mystery. As soon as you see the boss or see the theme of a level, you can pretty much just use your own deductive reasoning and figure out how the rest of that section of levels is going to play out. But each of these bosses is based on a stereotype. There's a hippie chick, there's a your classic 80s bad to the bone motorcycle riding gangster type dude. I think of that when I see this boss. I think of the not boss. I'm thinking of the boss of Terminator 2. No, I think of the movie Terminator 2 with Arnold Schwarzenegger at the beginning, where he busts into the bar and then he gets his clothes from the biker gang after that whole combat scene. He walks out and it plays that song, which is the fucking bad to the bone, that whole spiel. And if you go back and watch that movie now, it's almost comedic because of how dated the song is, and how much the scene relied on that song to be considered a cool song with a movie like The Terminator, which is obviously trying to take itself seriously because it's the plot of the destruction of the world, the apocalypse due to cyber technology getting out of hand and taking over the world, and people preventing that. It's a completely serious story. But if you go back and watch that scene, even with the goggles of nostalgia, you can't help but laugh at that scene because of the way that it takes itself super seriously with that song playing in the background. Not to say that I still don't enjoy it. I enjoy it because of that reason, probably even more now. But anyways, back to the point. The boss that you fight in Lollipop Chainsaw is he's one of the final bosses. I believe he's second to last, so he's an important guy. He's meant to be the cool rocker dude who is important because he is living that hardcore lifestyle. Aesthetically he's matching up to the stereotype of someone who is bad to the bone. And this is already going on a little bit longer than I thought it would, but I just wanted to mention that's shot number 2. That's what I was thinking about, was the aesthetics of Lollipop Chainsaw and the theming of it, and how it can be a non-super serious game and still be extremely entertaining with minimal graphical technology. It doesn't look like a fucking movie. It's not The Last of Us or anything, but it still is one of my favorite games because of the way it presents its themes and the way it presents them in a lighthearted, comedic, and fun way. That's it for 2. Okay, so that was shot number 3. Something that is relevant in the media as of late is the release of Sonic Forces, the video game, and I dislike it. It is extremely lackluster. It does not provide me with any amount of the entertainment that I was led to believe that it would possess in value. I was led to believe, based on the trailers, by the way that they were taking their characters seriously, by the way that they were hyping up the quality of Sonic that was to be expected after Sonic Generations. I was expecting it to be not a masterpiece, but just something that had expanded upon the ideas and the abilities of the character that they incorporated so well into the structure of Sonic Generations. And the product that was received was something with an even more terrible proposition for a story. I'm gonna have to focus solely on the story for a second, because this is a gripe that I have that cannot be resolved enough with Sonic games. You have Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, right? The stories were taken completely seriously as stories that they weren't pretentious. They didn't build you up to this story that was trying to make a statement about life philosophically or even scientifically, really. They were just stories with characters that had a depth to them, that had a story behind them, that had enough detail and exposition in the plot that was executed well enough to where you could understand where these characters were coming from. You could understand their worldview. The characters had depth, is my point. Chaos was another being. You know what? Let me start with Chaos. This fucker in Sonic Adventure 1 was the end result if you had spent enough time in the Chao Garden for either Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Actually, I'm not sure. I think Chaos Chao were only able to be created in Sonic Adventure 2, if I'm not mistaken. But if you spent enough time in the Chao Garden, you would realize eventually, or however you discovered the method, that beings that are like Chaos, which were gods, or the one god, to the Echidna people, and to a vast civilization of them in ancient times. A date isn't specified, but I'm assuming around the Mayan era. You would know that Chaos as a being comes from Chao, and that he evolves from Chao, and that you would have to a Chao, which is a creature in Sonic. You would, the baby creatures with the balls on their heads that express emotions with said ball. It's one of the cutest things in the fucking world. Anyway, the chaos comes from these creatures. If you had spent enough time with them, if you had evolved them in the proper way, if they had become eclectic in their collection of the animals and chaos drives and powers that you would give to them, equally enough, they would ascend to this form of godhood, which was the Chaos form, which was the Chaos Chao. And here's the thing about Chaos Chao. Each Chao in the Chao Garden has a life and death cycle. They would either live and then die, or live long enough to be reincarnated if they lived a happy life. If they lived a sad life, they would die and it would end. If if you treated your Chao like shit, if you didn't feed them on time, if you threw them against the wall, they would die. But if you treated it with love and care and kindness, you took it to school, you treated it like your baby in Second Life or some shit, your Neopet, whatever other games that... The Japanese have a lot of games where you take care of a lot of little animal creatures and like their babies, whatever. That's interesting. But you would have to take care of it. If you treated it kind, if you treated it well, if you raised it like it was one of your own, like it was a child that you had to raise to become a productive member of society with love and with care, you would have to treat it with the grace of something that had to be trained up to one day race and participate in Chao karate so that it could beat the fuck out of other Chao. That was the purpose of the Chao's life, to either win in races or just kick the shit out of other Chao. And it was pretty great, but once it became a Chaos Chao, it would not die. So it is suspected that it would exit its life and death cycle. So it was suspected by the fan community, and later confirmed, I believe, that Chaos Chow were immortal, and Chaos was immortal for this reason. We knew Chaos was immortal, we just didn't know he came directly from Chow in that way until you had raised a Chow for long enough to become a Chaos Chow. So these fucking things become an immortal being. The fact that something like Chaos, which is at first glance a simple enemy, oh, it's an evolving godlike creature that absorbs the Chaos Emeralds, obviously, because what else would he do? Once you realize how many ties he has to the Chaos Emeralds themselves because of the creatures that worshipped and heralded these emeralds, and also took care and commission of these other little baby beings that would one day become generationally the gods that they would worship even further. The fact that the echidnas and the chaos people are tied, their stories are woven so intricately together to where they cannot survive exactly without one another. They have a common bond in the worship of nature and the way the world works, the way that chaos is quelled and integrated into the life cycles of the world and its people to maintain peace and balance. The fact that Chaos, this creature who is voiceless, mind you, doesn't say a fucking word the whole time, has such depth to him and such backstory and is such an integral part to the Sonic universe, means that Sega knew what they were doing, or at least the ones who created Sonic Adventure 1 with this character, at the very least. Maybe not so much with, level design and the glitches that come with it, but at least they had the story and the characters down pat correctly, because this creature was admirable for a reason, which could obviously be stated. And what do they do to him in Sonic Forces? What do they do to him in Sonic Forces? He shows up for a second. The characters acknowledge that they know him all of a sudden without mentioning him for 20 years. Ever since Sonic Adventure 2, the word Chaos hasn't been mentioned outside of the Emeralds. They act like he didn't exist. And then, all of a sudden in Sonic Forces, you realize, oh shit, through the trailers and whatnot, Chaos is back. We're gonna get more lore on him. We're gonna find out why he's returned to the planet. They're gonna address that in some way or another. No, he's just a simulation that's fucking brought upon by some new fuckhead, Infinite, who you would assume, based on how much they hyped up the ability and the ability of this character and the songs surrounding him, that we would get some kind of character explanation that was a little bit deeper into how he was conceived, or why he is so powerful for no fucking reason, or why he came out of nowhere. No, there's none of that. It's simply he came and out of nowhere, and he's powerful, and he can simulate chaos, and that's all you get, is that chaos is a simulation. Now he's not really back. Fuck everything he stood for prior. Fuck what you expected. It doesn't matter. And the only good thing I could say about Chaos returning in this one, briefly, is that he has an interesting, clear, textured water design, which has been enabled by the advancement of graphics ever since Adventure 1, which is good. That's a positive quality. It's not much of a positive quality if it's surrounded by story bullshit. Shit that nobody cares about, and the things that true fans of Sonic would be expecting to be elaborated upon. You don't even get to fight him in a boss battle. He's just there for cutscenes. A character as important as Chaos, someone who is mentioned repeatedly throughout Sonic Adventure 2, because I guess they had an investment in maintaining the canon lore of the story, to maintaining the narrative in any, if they had any kind of an inkling of motivation to continue the narrative. So in Sonic Adventure 2, you don't fight Chaos because he was quelled, and he has finally allowed peace to exist in some ascendant realm that we don't know about, with Tikal fucking her probably. The fact that this character that is expanded upon through genetically modified chaos creatures with robotic heads by Dr. Eggman's crazy scientist grandfather throughout the space colony arc, which is explained through Maria once you get her as a wait a minute. No, this isn't Sonic Adventure 2. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Shadow the fucking Hedgehog. I didn't even realize until now that I was talking about Shadow the Hedgehog. This is the second time that Chaos is mentioned, or not, since Sonic Adventure 1, which is beautiful to me, because this is, to me, a worse game than Sonic Adventure 2, but yet they still had the sense in creating this game, which everybody rags on, mind you, to include such an in-depth piece of the lore as to include Chaos in these genetically modified versions of it, which Maria explains are scientific attempts at recreations of this god that was worshipped by an ancient people. She leaves it a little bit ambiguous. It gives you just enough investment or insight to make the connection yourself. Oh, these are based off of Chaos, which was worshipped by the Echidna people. She's referring to the Echidna people. My point is, a character with this much depth and characterization and ability to infect the canon story of Sonic was just left by the wayside in cutscenes for the very next time he returned. Not even a compatible enemy. What the fuck, Sega? Just what the fuck? That's shot number 3. Okay, shot number 4. So I realize I went off onto a bit of a tangent there with the character of Chaos and his importance in the Sonic universe. And shot number 3 is a bit early for a rant, but I guess that one had been festering in me for a little bit, just because, like I said, of the media relevance of Sonic Forces at the moment, and I had to discuss, if not the whole game, just a single aspect of it. And I realized in the middle of that rant just how much of an issue I actually do have with the game, because I was able to go on that long of a tangent, not about a single aspect of the game, not about a single mechanic, but a single character appearance. Just something visually that happens in a cutscene that has extreme story relevance that I was able to go on and on about for a while. So this should not only display to you that I have issue with Sonic Forces, but it should also display to you the importance and value that I place upon story and characters within an established universe. I do not take that lightly. That's that is the most important and my favorite aspects of any game, any book, any movie, any story that has to be told that I would consider worthwhile is its importance and detail and relevance of its characters. So this shot is just going to be a clarification shot. I just wanted to clarify that there is so much wrong with Sonic Forces that I wouldn't have enough time to talk about it here, and so much wrong within a specific context and a broad context, not only to the game specifically in itself as a piece of art that is separate from the Sonic universe. There's so much wrong, but there is also so much wrong with it as an established piece of the Sonic franchise as a whole, which would take so long to talk about and so long to argue points over that I simply do not have the time or energy to get into it. I could make an entire video series about it. In fact, I probably should. I should just go step by step and make the 10-hour video series about the qualities and the shit that is present in the Sonic universe that I love dearly and that I hate with a burning passion. Not only the series, but the fan base and the people who hate it without good reason. even though they have some good reason. I'm not gonna get into it. There's too much to talk about, which was the point of this little ramble of this shot. Anyways, that's 4. Just some clarification. There is not enough time to go over all that shit. Just know that chaos is important. That's it. Hey guys, so this is shot number 5, and what was on my mind at the moment was specifically the undead settlement in the second, I think it's the second, either second or third section of Dark Souls 3, and the lore surrounding this section specifically, not even really the lore, I mean the lore ties into it obviously because the lore ties into every part of Dark Souls, but the undead settlement section of Dark Souls 3, I was thinking about the explorative appeal of it and the reason why it has such importance and relevance to the story is because you're running around in this area that seems to be in the muck or deteriorating in a sense, so where it's drained of life sort of thing. There's just dead bodies scattered throughout the entirety of it. There are these people worshipping bonfires, burning what they own. Everything that is part of their livelihood and living structure is deteriorating and falling apart. It's all old household equipment, all fucked up shit. And I was thinking about the significance of the undead settlement because the hollows that are there are meeting an extreme unfortunate end or just prolonged suffering to their life and their situation and position in life. They have this curse placed upon them, the mark of the dark sign, which is keeping them alive, not of their own will, while simultaneously draining their soul, draining their memories, draining what makes them human and sentient, draining their soul out of their body with each death and resurrection, and yet you have these bodies scattered throughout the place, tied up and hung from the roof. They're either hung from the roof and wrapped up so tight that even if they came back to life, they wouldn't be able to move, they wouldn't be able to breathe. They are in a literal constricted environment for eternity, or for however long their life lasts, and there's no importance being placed upon these beings in this place. This is a place of suffering, a place of where there's so much undead that they struggle to find something to do with them. This is the beyond the equivalent to the mass graves of the Black Plague. This is somewhere where these bodies are being hung up from crucifixion crosses and tortured, put above flaming stakes where either they're going to fall on top of them and continue to be impaled and live 1,000 lives and deaths until they can meet ultimate death, or they're going to be burned and continue suffering for who knows how long, because nobody's paying attention to them individually. This is, like I said, it's a mass grave where nobody's getting the attention that is necessary for anybody to be cured of this, and it's because it can't be cured. Nobody can find a cure to a curse of this magnitude. It's not the common individual anyway. It's just a really fucked up situation to be in, and upon going through the undead settlement for the umpteenth time, it's probably 7 or 8 by now, something like that, but it's just fucked up. It's just something that triggers your empathy if you're one who would think about it for long enough, you know. Real crazy shit. Just throwing thoughts, random thoughts out there for that one. Hey, hello, dwellers of the internet. I'm back. That was shot number 6. We are on the train. I am feeling it now. I'm starting to feel it. So naturally, we're gonna talk about one of my favorite animated series / anime of all time, Dragon Ball Super. This shit sucks. It's fucking terrible. Akira Toriyama has gotten lazy in his writing. He hasn't given a fuck about Dragon Ball since the Frieza / Cell saga, if I'm remembering right, as far as he has claimed to be the limit of his passion at a certain point in time in his life. But that's besides the point. What I wanted to talk about is the fact that Dragon Ball Super has utterly destroyed characterization for certain characters like Goku and Vegeta. Specifically Goku and Vegeta, the main characters that were the staple of the franchise, the characters that carried it forward, the characters that everybody identified with. If you were someone and you grew up liking Dragon Ball Z, which is half the population, let's be real, you identified with either Goku or Vegeta. Either one of those guys was your favorite because not only were they the most powerful, but they were the most popular. Not just because of their power levels and because they were the strongest in the series, as they proved to be time and time again, but because of their personality traits, because of the implementation of characterization within each moment of Dragon Ball Z, within each encounter that they would have with each other. It was always a furthered narrative that had a lot of detail in it and a lot of attention paid to it. It seemed like, for example, you have in Dragon Ball Z the infamous battle when Vegeta becomes Majin Vegeta, and it is only for the reason that he believes he has gone soft, which gives him the motivation to seek this transformation, to seek Babidi's ability to free what is darkest in the supposed soul of a being, to free his ruthless nature once again and return him to that primal Saiyan state where he's willing to kill for anyone and fight for his pride above all else. He doesn't give a fuck of what happens to his family, what happens to any friends, anything like that. Anybody who could hold a bond of compassion to him. And he does this willingly because he wants so badly to settle the score between he and Goku. And at this point, it's so significant because up until this point, you believe so much time has passed that, of course, he would be just another hero, just another person on Goku's squad, just another person who has once been a villain and held an extreme distaste for Goku and the good of the planet in general, but has grown to accept that striving for peace and striving for hope is the real way of approaching a situation. The real it's realistically what you should be striving for, and has taken that inspiration from Goku himself. He was very nearly just another hero on the Z Force, or the Z Fighter team, as it's called, or they call them Z Fighters at some point or another. I don't know when that's established, but regardless, the point is, at this point, Vegeta is considered not someone who can fluctuate between villain and hero anymore. He's somebody who is considered a full-fledged hero and who has gotten over most of his hang-ups and most of his pridal issues. But he comes back one last time for an ultimate battle with Goku, letting himself succumb to all of the buried hatred and anger he has had for him, for surpassing him, for shaming him, for mocking his pride, for basically not agreeing with his philosophy and fighting against it and winning against it, in a certain sense, proving Vegeta wrong, proving him the weaker person, proving that his Saiyan pride and lineage and supposed claim to power is nothing more than a facade, which Vegeta takes extreme distaste and he just fucking hates it. It destroys him from the inside out. He's not someone who can handle this kind of humiliation, as he puts it in this battle. And all of the emotions that are felt by Vegeta from experiencing something such as this. Now you have to remember, there's so much characterization ties into this. This isn't just something that I think I can even explain properly at this point. This is a man who was brought up by his father through a lifetime of suffering, through a lifetime of nothing but training and battle hardening combat experiences, who was told by his father that he was destined for something great, only to be humiliated by someone who he was taught to be low class, or somebody from a faction in this very same hierarchy that his father respected and ran, that his father controlled, to be outclassed and to be sidelined by this person who can reach all these amazing feats again and again, and can reach such rapid accelerations in power increase just because they have the sheer force of will to do so. This not only serves as a driving force for Vegeta to gain an upper hand, or to train harder and to seek vengeance, but it ultimately becomes such a driving force of his psychology that it is literally, Goku's success is what literally pushes him over the edge time and time again to reach those far greater, higher and higher levels. Goku became a Super Saiyan. It was the ultimate defeat for Vegeta because he always thought that was his destiny, so he had to train non-stop, and no matter what happened, he knew in his mind he could not fucking stop, not even if it broke him, not even if it destroyed him, not even if he had to sacrifice his life, travel to other planets, and risk his life in the storms of danger that he put himself in. He knew his only choice was to gain the power somehow to surpass Goku. This is the driving force of his character. This is who Vegeta is. He needs that challenge. He needs that person to be ahead of him like Goku, which is why he ties into his character so well. He is the one who is continuously pushing him to reach for that next goal, for that next level up in power, for that next continuation of power scaling that is ruining Dragon Ball Super at the moment, with all of their fucking ridiculous pink and blue transformations that have gone way off the scale and no longer hold any significance. Fuck all that shit. Anyways, I could go on and on about Vegeta. What they ruined in Dragon Ball Super was the sincerity of his character. The realism that he portrayed in someone who was devoting their life to gain power, devoting their life to something greater than themselves. Or, I mean, well, not at first, but Vegeta eventually devoted himself to something greater than himself, which was the preservation of the planet, the preservation of peace. And he wouldn't have been able to do that without Goku. He wouldn't have been able to do that without the experiences they had together, and without the lessons he had to learn, all the trials and tribulations that he had to go throughout, even from the Saiyan saga, but throughout the Frieza saga. He's continuing to learn and progress. Throughout the Cell saga, he is learning how to control and manage this newfound power he has found within himself. Throughout the Cell saga especially, he's learning that he can reach feats which he never believed he could before, through all these different methods, and in a sense is taking after Goku in learning what it truly takes to reach that next level, no matter what level you've already gotten to, what it takes to progress and to ascend to beyond your limits, even though you think they've been reached, which is fucking phenomenal for him. But what they do to him in Dragon Ball Super is that he's no longer taken sincerely. By the end of Dragon Ball Z, he is this hardened man who has gone through not only all of these lessons throughout all of these sagas, but has relapsed during his Majin Vegeta point and attempted to go back to his old ways already, and has tried to seek that old mental power that he believed he had through the ruthlessness of his character, and has ultimately found it to be false. And not only is this version of Vegeta old and experienced, but he is wise because he has been through so much. He has obtained wisdom that only a character of his magnitude could have reached by that point. I would honestly respect Vegeta probably more as a person at the end of the Buu saga than I would Goku. But in Super, they completely ruin that. They throw it by the wayside. He is played up for jokes now. He is meant to be. They're treating it like a light novel anime where, oh, this character takes himself super seriously, and haha, wouldn't it be funny if we put him in situations where him treating himself like he was serious got played for laughs, and like, haha, he shouldn't be taking himself seriously after all, now should he? Haha, because he's now sweating and laughing like a fucking anime character who's in love with a girl. He's gonna blush because he's in love with his wife Bulma and have a fucking nosebleed. All of a sudden Vegeta is Master Roshi. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. It is bullshit. It's not Vegeta. It's not his character. It's not meant to be the case. They have completely taken the point of what happened all throughout Dragon Ball Z, and they have ruined it. They have soiled his character and sullied it with this mass-produced, played for laughs, comedy trope collage that seems to do well in so many light novel anime because they know how many viewers Dragon Ball has and how much pull it has and how many people will join up into this new wave of appreciation for that particular anime, because the people who are of the mainstream nowadays eat that shit up when somebody like Kirito or that fucker from Excel World or fucking I don't even know what it's called, fucking the Asterisk War, that's what it's called. The fucking these shit mainstream mass-produced anime. They wanted to make Vegeta like one of these main characters, these main protagonist faggots who keep their fucking bullshit. They're just stupid. It's just stupid. Alrighty, boyos. So that was chat number 7, and at this point, I do not have a topic of discussion for the gaming world or gaming industry. And if you've followed me this long, perhaps you're willing to follow me a little bit further. All I'm going to talk about is how much I've drank and the alcohol tolerance that's necessary for this kind of video. Shots are some of the hardest to drink forms of alcohol amongst the normal individual, as far as I know. And considering I've drank 7 of them, one would consider the implications upon which any form of action of communication would be set upon that. But it's all good. These inebriated states facilitate ideas, and I guess that's what I wanted to more clearly specify with this shot. That's the topic I wanted to talk about, was just answering the question, why do a drinking video on any topic at all? Wouldn't that hinder your ability to examine something scientifically or logically and be able to explain it in a coherent and productive way? And my answer to that is fuck no, because being in an anemone, being in an inebriated state, oftentimes for myself, I can't speak for anyone else, but for myself, it encourages thoughtful behavior, because I am put in a better mood, and I am encouraged to sort of think of broader possibilities, and not only that, but it produces the mind state by which thoughts can be further expanded upon and reached that just simply were not able to be reached without that inebriation. Not to say that they would be better or worse, but just the fact that it allows for further expansion of thoughts in general, to me, has enough possibility of inherent value for me to continue in the experimental process of making videos like these, where I would drink and then create content based on that drinking and ideas that come to mind. So you see, the point of doing a video like this is to expand upon and explain and dive deep into the depths of the details of this mental state, and what information can be accessed while in this mental state. For me specifically, it doesn't have to apply to anybody else. It doesn't have to be the specific scenario or situation for anybody else, but it's something interesting to me that I find worth exploring, because it's able to facilitate the production of cool ideas, and that is the point of this channel. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work very well for scripted videos of any kind, because all the thought is done beforehand, but it's bound to produce results in the improvisational factors of the video. It's bound to produce a more comedic effect, or perhaps for some people, depending on their taste, a more entertaining effect. So I choose to do it because not only does it have these extreme possibilities for positive results, but it's fun as fuck, and I like making videos while drinking. So there you go. That's number 7, peeps. That was number 8, the number of chaos.